Hey, Mop Princess. Careful not to drop any of those weapons. These aren't toys for little girls to play with. Brick Morrison's gravelly laugh echoed through the Naval Special Warfare Armory as he pointed toward the blonde woman mopping floors between the rows of M4 carbines. Ember Thorne, 26 years old, wearing a faded gray t-shirt and black cargo pants, didn't even look up. She simply continued her methodical cleaning around the ammunition crates, as if the three seals staring at her were nothing more than part of the wall. Hey, Brick, does she even hear us? Jackson Sterling, the team's technical expert, picked up a dummy round from a nearby workstation. Let's test those reflexes. The brass casing flew directly toward Ember's head. Without looking, without turning, she shifted her head exactly 2 inches to the right. The round sailed past her ear and clattered to the concrete floor with a metallic ring. Jackson laughed louder. Lucky shot! How about this time? He grabbed 2 more rounds, throwing them faster, from unpredictable angles. Ember never stopped mopping. A slight lean to the left, a 6-inch step backward. Both rounds missed her by margins so narrow they seemed calculated rather than coincidental. Wade Fletcher, the senior SEAL with 15 years of combat experience under his belt, narrowed his eyes. What the hell was that? From her position near the equipment inventory station, Sergeant Nix Rivera had been cataloging gear, but her attention was now completely focused on Ember. Those movement patterns were too clean, too precise. Nobody got that lucky. But Jackson Sterling wasn't finished playing games. He'd spotted an M4 carbine that someone had left on the maintenance bench, and more importantly, he'd noticed the subtle smile playing at the corners of Ember's mouth. Time to wipe that smirk away. Oops, Jackson said, his voice dripping with false concern as he deliberately squeezed the trigger without checking the chamber. Forgot to clear this baby. The live round that nobody knew was chambered exploded from the barrel with a deafening crack that sent every person in the armory diving for cover. Except one. Ember Thorne spun with the fluid grace of a dancer and the lethal precision of a trained killer. The mop handle in her hands became a weapon, intercepting the projectile with surgical accuracy and deflecting it into the reinforced concrete wall where it embedded with a shower of dust and debris. The armory fell into absolute silence. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to hum more quietly. Ember returned to her mopping with the same methodical rhythm, as if deflecting high-velocity rounds was part of her regular janitorial duties. Next time, maybe check the chamber, hero. Brick Morrison's face had gone from confident superiority to confused alarm in the span of 3 seconds. That was impossible. Was it? Ember's voice carried the faintest trace of amusement. Maybe you should pay more attention during basic weapons safety training. Wade Fletcher stood slowly from behind the equipment crate where he'd taken cover, his mind racing through combat scenarios and statistical probabilities. In 15 years of special operations, he'd never seen reflexes that clean. Not from active duty operators, and certainly not from civilian maintenance staff. Jackson Sterling stared at the embedded round in the concrete wall, then at the woman who'd just saved multiple lives with a piece of cleaning equipment. Who are you? Ember wrung out her mop in the bucket, the sound of water echoing through the tense silence. I'm the person who cleans up after you make messes. Dr. Sage Winters, the base psychologist who'd been observing the interaction from the armory's entrance, felt her clinical training kick into overdrive. The physiological responses she was witnessing didn't match any civilian behavioral patterns in her extensive database. Ember's heart rate appeared controlled, her breathing steady, her muscle tension suggesting someone prepared for combat rather than afraid of it. Brick Morrison recovered first, his embarrassment transforming into aggressive confrontation. Lucky shot, Janitor Barbie. Real cute party trick, but we're not impressed. I wasn't trying to impress you, Ember replied, moving to clean around a rack of tactical gear. I was trying to keep you from accidentally killing someone. Accidentally? Jackson's voice rose with indignation. That was your fault for being in the way. Ember paused, looking directly at him for the first time. Her blue eyes held depths that seemed inconsistent with someone whose biggest responsibility was floor maintenance. The fault belongs to whoever pulls a trigger without knowing what's in the chamber. That's basic protocol that every recruit learns on day one. Wade Fletcher felt a chill run down his spine. The terminology she'd used, protocol, recruit, day one, came naturally, automatically. Not the way a civilian contractor would speak, but the way someone with extensive military training would reference standard operating procedures. If that opening just made your blood boil watching someone get disrespected like that, smash that like button right now. This story is about to expose the most dangerous assumption these SEALs will ever make. But before we dive deeper into this weapons vault showdown, I'm genuinely curious. Have you ever been completely wrong about someone's capabilities? Drop your story in the comments, because what happens next will make you question everything you think you know about judging people. Brick Morrison wasn't about to let some civilian janitor lecture him about military protocols. His muscular frame, honed by years of demanding training, dwarfed Ember's slender build as he stepped closer. Listen, princess, I don't know what kind of movies you've been watching, but this is real military equipment handled by real warriors. Why don't you stick to what you know? Mopping floors and emptying trash cans. Ember continued cleaning, her movements maintaining that same precise rhythm that Nix Rivera was beginning to recognize as distinctly military in nature. Perfect spacing, consistent timing, situational awareness that extended in all directions simultaneously. Speaking of real warriors, Jackson Sterling said, pulling apart an M4 carbine on the workbench. Let's see how much our little janitor knows about actual weapon systems. He deliberately scrambled the components, mixing parts from different firearms and introducing pieces that didn't belong. Here's a fun challenge. Reassemble this baby. Wade Fletcher watched with growing suspicion as Ember approached the workstation. Most civilian contractors couldn't identify the difference between an M4 and an M16, let alone perform field maintenance on either system. Ember set down her mop and examined the jumbled collection of weapon components. Without hesitation, she began sorting parts with the systematic efficiency of someone who'd performed this task hundreds of times. Her hands moved with muscle memory precision, identifying each component's proper placement and function. This firing pin belongs to an M249 saw, not an M4 platform, she said, setting aside a piece that didn't belong. This bolt carrier group has been incorrectly modified for full auto operation without proper federal licensing. And this, she held up a spring that Jackson had deliberately bent. This has been sabotaged to cause catastrophic weapon failure. The three SEALs exchanged glances. Civilian maintenance personnel weren't supposed to recognize specialized military components, let alone identify illegal modifications. 3 minutes, 17 seconds, Ember announced, setting down the fully assembled and properly configured M4 carbine, including time to identify and correct your sabotage attempts. Jackson Sterling's confident smirk had vanished. He'd deliberately mixed components to create an impossible assembly challenge, yet Ember had not only solved it, but identified problems that most active duty personnel would have missed. That's not possible, he stammered. You'd need years of training to what? Ember interrupted gently. To know how to maintain the tools of the trade. Wade Fletcher's 15 years of combat experience were screaming warnings that his rational mind couldn't quite process. Every instinct developed through multiple deployments was telling him that Ember Thorne represented something far more complex than her janitor's uniform suggested. Dr. Sage Winters continued her clinical observation from the Armory entrance, documenting behavioral patterns that contradicted every assumption about civilian contractor capabilities. Ember's micro-expressions, her breathing patterns, her spatial awareness, everything suggested someone with extensive tactical training attempting to appear ordinary. Brick Morrison felt his authority being undermined by someone he'd dismissed as irrelevant, and his response was predictably aggressive. All right, enough games. I want to see some identification, real identification, because either you're lying about being maintenance staff or you're lying about knowing military procedures. Ember reached into her cargo pants pocket and produced a standard contractor identification badge. The photo matched, the security clearances appeared legitimate, and the employment records showed 6 months of satisfactory janitorial service. Ember Thorne, Wade read aloud. Facilities maintenance, Level 2 security clearance, assigned to armory cleaning and basic equipment care. But something about the badge bothered him. The security clearances seemed higher than necessary. for someone whose job description involved mopping floors and emptying waste baskets. Level 2 clearance typically required background investigations reserved for personnel with access to classified materials. "Why does a janitor need Level 2 clearance?" he asked. Ember returned the badge to her pocket. "Because this facility stores classified weapon systems and sensitive equipment. Everyone with regular access requires appropriate security vetting." The answer made logical sense, but Wade's instincts continued screaming that something fundamental didn't add up. Ember's body language, her terminology, her weapon expertise, none of it aligned with civilian contractor behavioral patterns. Jackson Sterling wasn't ready to admit defeat. If Ember wanted to play games with weapon assembly, he'd escalate the challenge beyond anything a civilian could handle. "Okay, Princess, you got lucky with basic maintenance. Let's try something a little more advanced." He led the group to a secured storage cabinet that required both keycard access and biometric identification. These are restricted components that require specialized clearance to even touch. "I'm betting our little janitor doesn't have authorization to." Ember walked directly to the cabinet and placed her palm on the biometric scanner. The device immediately chirped acceptance and unlocked with a series of mechanical clicks. "Authorization confirmed," the system's computerized voice announced. "Welcome, clearance level Omega Red." The Armory fell silent again, but this time the silence carried a different quality. Fear, confusion, and growing realization that their assumptions about Ember Thorne had been catastrophically wrong. Wade Fletcher stared at the security display. Omega Red clearance didn't officially exist in any standard military classification system, yet the scanner had not only recognized it, but granted access to equipment that required the highest possible security authorization. "What the hell is Omega Red clearance?" Brick demanded. Ember opened the cabinet and began examining the classified components inside with the casual familiarity of someone who'd handled such equipment many times before. "It's clearance for people who need to know things that officially don't exist." The weapons and equipment inside the secured cabinet were unlike anything the Three SEALs had seen during their standard operations. Advanced targeting systems, classified ammunition types, and technology that appeared to be several generations ahead of current military specifications. Dr. Sage Winters found herself documenting observations that challenged every protocol in her psychological evaluation manual. Ember's behavioral patterns suggested someone with extensive special operations experience, yet her official records indicated civilian contractor status with no military background. Nix Rivera stepped closer to the group, her curiosity overcoming military protocol. "Ma'am, I'm not sure I understand. How does facilities maintenance personnel have access to classified weapons technology?" Ember selected a piece of equipment from the cabinet, an advanced optics system that most special operations personnel had never seen outside of classified briefings. "Sometimes maintenance involves more than cleaning floors, Sergeant Rivera." The casual use of Nix's rank, despite the fact that Ember had never been formally introduced to anyone in the Armory, sent another wave of unease through the assembled group. Jackson Sterling felt his world tilting off its axis. "You're not a janitor. I'm whatever I need to be," Ember replied, returning the equipment to its proper place and closing the cabinet. "Today I happen to be someone who cleans floors." Brick Morrison's frustration had reached a boiling point. His entire identity was built around being part of an elite military unit, and watching some civilian contractor demonstrate capabilities that exceeded his own training was intolerable. "This is nonsense," he growled. "I don't care what kind of clearance you claim to have or what tricks you think you're pulling. You're a civilian contractor, nothing more, and civilians don't get to play soldier in restricted military facilities." Ember returned to her mop and bucket, resuming the methodical cleaning routine that had been interrupted by their challenges. "You're absolutely right, Petty Officer Morrison. Civilians shouldn't play soldier." The casual mention of his exact rank, despite never having been introduced, made Brick's blood run cold. He'd never told her his rank or position, yet she'd used his precise military title with the confidence of someone reading from his service record. Wade Fletcher's combat instincts were now screaming so loudly that he could no longer ignore them. Every detail about Ember Thorne suggested someone with access to classified personnel information and training that exceeded standard special operations parameters. How do you know his rank? Wade demanded. Ember paused in her mopping. It's written on his uniform. Wade looked at Brick's standard-issue fatigues. The rank insignia was clearly visible to anyone with basic military knowledge, making Ember's explanation perfectly reasonable. Yet something about her tone suggested deeper familiarity with military personnel records than visual observation alone could provide. Dr. Sage Winters continued her psychological evaluation, noting behavioral patterns that contradicted every assumption about civilian contractor mental profiles. Ember demonstrated confidence levels typically associated with command authority, situational awareness consistent with combat veterans, and technical knowledge that required years of specialized training. The advanced ballistic tracking systems used in modern military armories rely on sophisticated sensor technology that can detect projectile trajectories with millisecond precision. Professional-grade motion detection equipment, designed for high-security facilities, utilizes multiple camera arrays and advanced algorithms to monitor personnel movement patterns and identify potential security threats in real time. These cutting-edge surveillance technologies are essential for maintaining operational security in sensitive military environments, where standard security measures would be completely inadequate. Jackson Sterling wasn't ready to concede defeat. If Ember wanted to demonstrate advanced weapon knowledge, he'd create a challenge that would expose her limitations and restore his team's credibility. "All right," he said, moving to a different section of the armory where live ammunition was stored under strict security protocols. "Let's try something that requires real expertise. These are specialized rounds with different purposes and classifications. I'm betting our mystery janitor can't identify military ammunition types." He selected several rounds from different storage containers, each designed for specific tactical applications that required extensive training to understand and utilize properly. Ember examined each round with the systematic approach of someone conducting a professional evaluation. 7.62 mm NATO, armor-piercing incendiary. Classified for anti-material operations against hardened targets. This one is 9 mm subsonic, designed for suppressed operations where auditory signature reduction is critical. And this, she held up a round that made all three SEALs step backward. This is classified above your clearance level. Wade Fletcher felt the bottom drop out of his stomach. The round Ember had identified was part of a classified ammunition program that existed only in special access programs. Knowledge of its existence required security clearances that exceeded standard special operations authorization. "How do you know about that program?" he whispered. Ember returned the round to its proper storage container. "Because I helped design the tactical applications." The armory fell into a silence so complete that the ventilation system's gentle hum sounded like a roar. Three elite special operations personnel found themselves confronting the possibility that their assumptions about civilian capabilities had been not just wrong, but dangerously naive. Brick Morrison's worldview was crumbling. Everything he'd been trained to believe about military hierarchy and civilian limitations was being systematically dismantled by someone whose job description involved mopping floors. "This is impossible," he said, though his voice lacked the conviction he'd shown earlier. "Civilians don't have access to classified weapons programs. They don't get Omega Red clearances. They don't know about special access ammunition projects." Ember resumed her cleaning with the same methodical precision, as if the conversation about classified military technology was as routine as discussing the weather. "You're right. Civilians don't have access to those things." The implication hung in the air like smoke from a discharged weapon. If civilians didn't have access to classified programs, and Ember clearly did have such access, then she wasn't a civilian contractor, despite what her identification badge claimed. Nix Rivera found herself reassessing every assumption she'd made about the woman quietly mopping floors in the armory. The behavioral patterns, the technical knowledge, the security clearances, everything pointed towards someone with extensive special operations background operating under civilian cover. Dr. Sage Winters continued documenting observations that challenged her understanding of psychological profiles and behavioral analysis. Ember's responses suggested someone comfortable with classified information and advanced military technology, yet maintaining perfect cover as ordinary maintenance personnel. Wade Fletcher's 15 years of combat experience included encounters with personnel operating under various types of cover identities: intelligence operatives, special operations personnel, and classified program participants often used civilian contractor positions to maintain operational security while conducting sensitive missions. "Who are you really?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ember looked up from her mopping, blue eyes meeting his with depths that seemed to contain years of experiences that her apparent age shouldn't allow. "I'm someone who cleans up messes." Guys, if you're feeling that tension building as badly as I am, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. This woman is about to demonstrate skills that will leave these SEALs speechless. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. The challenge that followed would either confirm Wade Fletcher's growing suspicions or prove that coincidence and luck could create impossible circumstances. Jackson Sterling, desperate to restore his team's credibility and his own understanding of reality, decided to escalate beyond weapon identification and ammunition classification. "You want to prove you're more than a janitor?" he said, leading the group toward the Armory's shooting range facility. "Let's see how you handle live fire exercises." The indoor range attached to the Armory was designed for precision shooting and tactical training. Multiple target systems, adjustable lighting conditions, and advanced scoring technology that could measure accuracy down to fractions of an inch. Brick Morrison supported the escalation, his wounded pride demanding vindication. "Yeah, Princess. Anyone can identify weapons and ammunition. Let's see if you can actually use them." Ember set down her mop and bucket, following the group into the range facility with the same calm demeanor she'd maintained throughout their increasingly aggressive challenges. Wade Fletcher watched her movement patterns as they walked, military bearing disguised as civilian casualness, spatial awareness that automatically cataloged exits and potential cover, footstep rhythm that matched infantry training cadence despite appearing relaxed and unstructured. The range offered multiple difficulty settings, from basic marksmanship to advanced tactical scenarios that challenged even experienced special operations personnel. Jackson Sterling selected the most difficult configuration available: moving targets in low-light conditions that required precision shooting under stress. 6 targets, he announced, configuring the computerized system. Moving patterns, random timing, minimal illumination. Most SEALs need multiple attempts to achieve qualifying scores. The targets began moving in unpredictable patterns, small metal silhouettes that appeared and disappeared in the darkness, with timing designed to test reflexes and accuracy under combat conditions. Ember examined the M4 carbine that Jackson provided, conducting a weapons check with muscle memory precision that took exactly 15 seconds, standard military protocol timing. "Ready," she announced. The first target appeared for exactly 2.7 seconds in near-complete darkness. Ember's shot rang out before most observers could even identify the target's location. Direct hit, center mass. The second and third targets appeared simultaneously from different directions. 2 shots, fired so quickly they sounded like a single extended report. Both targets showed center hits that would have been impressive in daylight conditions with stationary silhouettes. Targets 4 and 5 moved in crossing patterns designed to confuse shooters' tracking abilities. Ember's shots followed each target's movement with precision that suggested she was anticipating their paths rather than reacting to their positions. The 6th target appeared in a position that required shooting via reflection off a mirror surface, an advanced technique that most special operations personnel considered extremely difficult under ideal conditions. Ember paused for exactly 1 second, calculating angles and trajectories with the systematic approach of someone who'd performed similar shots many times before. Her final shot ricocheted off the mirror with perfect geometry, striking the target with the same center mass accuracy as the direct shots. 6 for 6, the computerized scoring system announced. Time: 11.4 seconds. Classification: Expert Marksman, Special Operations Qualified. The range fell silent except for the mechanical whirring of targets returning to their starting positions. Jackson Sterling stared at the scoring display, his mind struggling to process results that exceeded his own best performance by significant margins. That's impossible," Those conditions are designed to challenge experienced operators. Ember safed the weapon and returned it to the rack with the same casual efficiency she'd shown with all other equipment. Who left the safety on last time? Oh, right, you. The casual observation that Jackson had forgotten to engage the weapon's safety during their earlier interaction sent another wave of unease through the assembled group. Ember had been observing and cataloging their mistakes with the systematic attention of someone conducting a professional evaluation. Brick Morrison felt his identity as an elite warrior crumbling. Everything he'd accomplished in years of demanding training had just been exceeded by someone whose official job involved cleaning supplies and floor maintenance. "Lucky shooting," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Anyone can get lucky once." "Can they?" Ember asked, beginning to clean the weapons used in the exercise with practiced efficiency. "Would you like to try the same course of fire?" Wade Fletcher knew his team's limitations. The shooting exercise that Ember had just completed with perfect scores typically required multiple attempts for even experienced special operations personnel to achieve qualifying results. Dr. Sage Winters continued her psychological observations, documenting behavioral patterns that contradicted every civilian contractor profile in her extensive database. Ember's performance suggested someone with advanced marksmanship training and combat experience that exceeded standard military parameters. Nix Rivera found herself wondering how someone with Ember's obvious capabilities had ended up working as facilities maintenance personnel. The technical knowledge, security clearances, and tactical skills she demonstrated suggested qualifications for elite special operations units rather than civilian contractor positions. But Brick Morrison wasn't finished challenging someone who'd made him question his own competence. If Ember wanted to demonstrate advanced capabilities, he'd create a test that would expose her limitations and restore his team's credibility. "Shooting is one thing," he said, moving toward the Armory's physical training area. "Let's see how our mystery janitor handles real military standards." The physical training section included equipment for strength training, endurance testing, and tactical movement exercises that were designed to challenge peak physical conditioning. Rick selected a test that had humbled many special operations candidates, carrying a fully loaded ammunition container across an obstacle course that required both strength and tactical movement skills. "Standard M240 ammunition container," he announced, indicating a metal case that weighed 137 pounds when fully loaded. "Obstacle course completion while maintaining tactical movement standards. Most candidates need team assistance to complete this challenge." Ember approached the ammunition container with the same systematic evaluation she'd applied to weapons and technical challenges. She examined the weight distribution, tested the carrying handles, and assessed the obstacle course route with tactical planning precision. Without visible effort or preparation, she lifted the container and began moving through the obstacle course with fluid grace that made the substantial weight appear manageable. Her movement patterns maintained tactical spacing and cover utilization while navigating obstacles that had challenged much larger and stronger candidates. Wade Fletcher watched in growing amazement as Ember completed the course in a time that would have qualified her for elite special operations training programs. Her breathing remained controlled, her movement patterns maintained military precision, and her overall performance exceeded anything he'd seen from civilian personnel. "How?" Brick whispered, staring at the chronometer display. Ember set down the ammunition container and returned to her cleaning supplies. "Practice." The simple answer carried implications that none of the three SEALs wanted to contemplate. The level of physical conditioning and tactical training required to achieve Ember's performance represented years of intensive military preparation that contradicted everything her civilian contractor identity suggested. Dr. Sage Winters found herself documenting observations that challenged fundamental assumptions about human capabilities and identity verification systems. Either their security protocols had catastrophic flaws, or Ember Thorne represented something far more complex than her maintenance worker persona suggested. Jackson Sterling felt reality shifting around him like quicksand. Every challenge they'd presented had been met, not just with competence, but with performance levels that exceeded their own capabilities as trained special operations personnel. "This doesn't make sense," he said, his voice carrying desperation that hadn't been present in his earlier confident mockery. Civilian contractors don't have these capabilities. They don't get security clearances for classified programs. They don't receive advanced tactical training. Ember resumed mopping with the same methodical rhythm that had characterized her work throughout their extended confrontation. You're absolutely right. They don't. But before anyone could process the implications of her response, their attention was drawn to mechanical sounds coming from the Armory's parking area. The distinctive hum of electronic systems activating, followed by alert tones that shouldn't have been possible from civilian contractor vehicles. Brick Morrison had planted a smoke grenade in Ember's vehicle as a prank, designed to humiliate her further and demonstrate his team's superior tactical creativity. What he hadn't anticipated was triggering security systems that operated at classification levels beyond his authorization to understand. The Humvee assigned to Ember's use was undergoing a transformation that defied every assumption about civilian contractor equipment. Ballistic shutters were deploying over windows, communication arrays were extending from concealed compartments, and electronic countermeasures were activating with the systematic precision of military-grade security protocols. An automated voice echoed from the vehicle's speaker system with crystal-clear authority. Unit, Reaper Queen. Unauthorized access detected. Initiating security lockdown. SOCOM command notified. Wade Fletcher felt his blood turn to ice water. SOCOM, Special Operations Command, didn't get notified about pranks played on civilian maintenance personnel. They got notified about threats to classified operations and personnel operating under special access programs. Reaper Queen, Nix Rivera whispered, her voice barely audible over the continuing electronic alerts. Ember looked up from her mopping, chewing gum with casual indifference to the security crisis unfolding around them. Relax. It's only level 2 lockdown. You don't want to see level 3. The implications of her statement sent shockwaves through everyone present. If Ember knew about the security system's classification levels and escalation procedures, she wasn't just familiar with the equipment, she was authorized to control it. Jackson Sterling stared at the vehicle that had transformed from ordinary transportation into what appeared to be a mobile command center with defensive capabilities. What is that thing? Transportation, Ember replied simply. But the vehicle's continuing transformation suggested capabilities far beyond basic transportation. Additional equipment was deploying from concealed compartments, establishing communication links with networks that shouldn't have been accessible to civilian contractor personnel. Dr. Sage Winters found herself documenting a situation that challenged every protocol in her psychological evaluation manual. The security systems, the vehicle modifications, the communication networks, everything suggested operational capabilities that existed at classification levels requiring the highest possible military authorization. Brick Morrison felt the last of his confidence evaporating as he contemplated the possibility that his harmless prank had triggered national security protocols. "Turn it off," he pleaded. "Make it stop." Ember considered his request with the same casual attention she'd given their earlier challenges. "Why? You wanted to test my equipment. Now you're seeing what happens when unauthorized personnel interfere with classified systems. The specialized insurance and liability coverage required for military contractors operating in high-risk environments demands comprehensive financial protection that exceeds standard civilian policies. Elite insurance frameworks designed specifically for classified operations provide complete coverage for equipment replacement, medical treatment, and legal representation during sensitive missions. These premium insurance packages include advanced liability protection that would be absolutely essential for personnel working with classified weapons and conducting sensitive security assessments. Wade Fletcher's 15 years of special operations experience included enough exposure to classified programs to recognize when he was witnessing capabilities that operated beyond standard military authorization. The vehicle's security systems, Ember's casual familiarity with their operation, and the direct communication links to SOCOM suggested involvement in programs that existed at special access levels. "Who are you?" he asked again, though this time his voice carried respect rather than suspicion. Ember opened her smartwatch, a device that appeared ordinary until it displayed interfaces that none of the assembled personnel recognized. Multiple screens showing satellite imagery, communication networks, and what appeared to be real-time intelligence feeds from locations around the globe. "Stand by," she said, speaking into the device with command authority that contradicted everything her janitor persona suggested. "False alarm. Unauthorized access by friendly personnel conducting equipment familiarization." The vehicle's alert tones ceased immediately, systems retracting into concealment with mechanical precision that left no trace of their advanced capabilities. But the silence that followed carried a different quality than their earlier confrontations. Fear, confusion, and growing realization that they'd been catastrophically wrong about Ember Thorne's identity and capabilities. Nix Rivera found her voice first. "Ma'am, what exactly is your position here?" Ember returned the smartwatch to standby mode and resumed her cleaning duties. "I'm facilities maintenance personnel assigned to armory cleaning and basic equipment care." The answer was technically accurate according to her official paperwork, yet everyone present now understood that her actual role involved capabilities and authority far beyond anything suggested by civilian contractor documentation. Dr. Sage Winters continued her psychological evaluation, though she was beginning to suspect that her observations were documenting someone operating undercover identities that challenged fundamental assumptions about security protocols and personnel verification systems. Jackson Sterling stared at the vehicle that had returned to appearing completely ordinary, despite having demonstrated capabilities that exceeded anything in his experience with special operations equipment. "That's military hardware. Advanced military hardware." "Is it?" Ember asked, wringing out her mop with the same methodical precision she'd maintained throughout their extended confrontation. But before anyone could respond, new sounds echoed through the armory facility. Footsteps, approaching with military cadence. Multiple personnel moving with coordination that suggested official rather than casual arrival. Wade Fletcher recognized the distinctive sound patterns of personnel moving under military protocol rather than casual facility access. Someone with authority was approaching, and given the security alerts that had just been resolved, their arrival was probably related to the situation Brick's prank had triggered. The armory's main entrance opened with mechanical precision, revealing personnel whose presence would either confirm or destroy every assumption the three SEALs had made about their morning encounter with a civilian janitor who just demonstrated capabilities that exceeded their own training. Before this next reveal absolutely blows your mind, take a second to subscribe if you haven't already. What you're about to witness will change everything about this story, and I guarantee you'll want to see how this incredible woman handles what comes next. But the approaching footsteps carried a rhythm and precision that suggested the arrival of someone with authority to resolve questions about Ember Thorne's identity and the security systems that had just been activated by what was supposed to be a harmless prank. The sound grew closer, accompanied by the subtle electronic beeping of high-level security clearance verification systems, acknowledging authorized personnel access to restricted facilities. In moments, every assumption about civilian contractors, military hierarchy, and the relationship between official paperwork and actual capabilities would be tested against realities that operated beyond standard military classification systems. The armory's atmosphere had shifted from casual confrontation to tense anticipation, as everyone present recognized that their morning's entertainment was about to encounter forces beyond their understanding or control. Ember Thorne continued mopping floors with methodical precision, apparently unconcerned about the approaching resolution to questions that had been building throughout their extended confrontation. But something in her posture suggested that she knew exactly who was approaching and what their arrival would mean for everyone who'd spent the morning underestimating the capabilities of someone whose official job description involved cleaning supplies and floor maintenance. The footsteps were getting closer. The rhythmic approach of military footsteps created an undercurrent of tension that seemed to amplify every sound in the armory. Wade Fletcher found himself automatically cataloging the cadence. 2 personnel, possibly 3, moving with the synchronized precision that indicated either ceremonial training or recent combat deployment experience. But before the approaching personnel could reach the armory entrance, A new sound cut through the facility's atmosphere like a blade through silk. Electronic beeping, sharp and insistent, echoing from overhead speakers that most personnel never noticed during routine operations. Ember looked up from her mopping, a slight frown crossing her features for the first time since their confrontation had begun. The beeping pattern carried urgency that seemed to demand immediate attention from someone with authority to respond to whatever crisis was developing. Jackson Sterling felt relief washing over him, as the mysterious beeping provided distraction from questions about Ember's identity and capabilities that were challenging his understanding of reality. "Security alert," he said with confident authority. "Probably just routine system checks." But the beeping pattern was accelerating, gaining intensity that suggested escalating rather than routine circumstances. Dr. Sage Winters noticed Ember's behavioral patterns shifting subtly, posture becoming more alert, attention focusing on details that others were ignoring. Wade Fletcher's combat experience included enough exposure to electronic warning systems to recognize when routine became urgent. The beeping wasn't following standard patterns for scheduled maintenance or testing protocols. Nix Rivera moved toward the Armory's communication station, intending to check system status displays for information about whatever was triggering the alerts. What she discovered on the security monitors made her blood run cold. "Holy cow," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the continuing electronic alerts. "There's something on the roof." The security display showed aerial surveillance footage from the facility's external cameras. A dark silhouette against the morning sky, maintaining position with mechanical precision that ruled out any natural explanation. Brick Morrison moved to look over Nix's shoulder, expecting to see a bird or debris that had triggered motion sensors. What he saw instead challenged every assumption about routine security alerts and facility protection protocols. "That's a drone," he said, his voice carrying disbelief that struggled to process what his eyes were reporting. "That's a military drone." The aircraft hovering above their facility was unmistakably a Predator drone, its distinctive profile and advanced sensor arrays visible in high-definition detail on the security monitors. The equipment designed for combat operations in hostile territories, not routine surveillance of domestic military facilities. Jackson Sterling stared at the display, his mind racing through protocols for unauthorized aircraft in restricted airspace. "That's impossible. Military drones don't operate over domestic facilities without clearance that goes through multiple command levels." But the evidence on the security monitors contradicted his understanding of standard operating procedures. The drone was maintaining perfect position and altitude, demonstrating control systems that exceeded anything he'd encountered during his technical training. Dr. Sage Winters continued her psychological evaluation, noting that Ember's response to the drone's presence was markedly different from everyone else's alarm and confusion. Instead of surprise or concern, Ember displayed recognition and what appeared to be mild irritation. Wade Fletcher felt pieces of a puzzle beginning to form connections that he didn't want to contemplate. The vehicle security systems, Ember's advanced capabilities, and now a military drone appearing exactly when questions about her identity were reaching critical points. The electronic beeping suddenly ceased, replaced by silence that seemed more ominous than the alerts had been. On the security monitors, the drone remained in perfect position, its sensors apparently focused on the Armory facility with precision that suggested specific targeting, rather than routine surveillance. Ember set down her mop and opened her smartwatch, the device displaying interfaces that none of the assembled personnel had seen during standard military operations. Multiple screens, showing real-time data feeds, satellite imagery, and what appeared to be direct communication links with networks that operated beyond standard military authorization. "Stand by," she said, speaking into the device with command authority that contradicted everything her janitor persona had suggested. "Disarm standby mode. Set altitude 30 and maintain position for observation only." The effect was immediate and impossible to deny. On the security monitors, the drone's weapon systems visibly disarmed, its altitude adjusted exactly as specified, and its flight pattern shifted to observation mode, with precision that eliminated any possibility of coincidence. The armory fell into absolute silence as everyone present processed the implications of what they'd just witnessed. Ember Thorne, civilian facilities maintenance personnel, had just issued direct commands to a military drone that had responded with immediate compliance. Jackson Sterling's voice came out as barely more than a whisper. "How did you do that?" Ember returned the smartwatch to standby mode with casual efficiency. "I just borrow toys sometimes." But her casual explanation did nothing to address the fundamental impossibility of what had just occurred. Civilian contractors didn't have authorization to command military drones. They didn't possess equipment capable of interfacing with classified control systems. They didn't speak with the automatic authority of someone accustomed to controlling advanced weapon systems. Brick Morrison felt his worldview collapsing into fragments that couldn't be reassembled into anything that made sense. That's classified military hardware. You're not supposed to have access to classified military hardware. "Aren't I?" Ember asked, resuming her mopping with the same methodical precision that had characterized her work throughout their extended confrontation. Nix Rivera found herself staring at the security monitors where the drone maintained perfect position and altitude, following commands that had come from someone whose official paperwork identified her as civilian maintenance personnel. "Ma'am, who exactly are you?" Before Ember could respond, the approaching footsteps they'd been hearing finally reached the armory entrance. The door opened with mechanical precision, revealing personnel whose presence would either confirm or destroy every assumption they'd made about civilian contractors and military classification systems. Commander Atlas Kane entered the armory with military bearing that commanded immediate attention from everyone present. 45 years old, with the weathered features and precise movements of someone who'd spent decades in special operations, his presence shifted the facility's atmosphere from confusion to formal military protocol. Behind him walked two additional personnel whose bearing and equipment suggested capabilities that operated beyond standard military authorization. Security specialists whose equipment and demeanor indicated involvement in programs that existed at special access classification levels. Wade Fletcher felt recognition dawning as he processed Commander Kane's appearance and timing. The security alerts, the drone presence, and now the arrival of personnel with authority to address situations involving classified operations and special access programs. Commander Kane's eyes swept the armory with systematic precision, cataloging personnel positions and assessing the tactical situation with automatic efficiency. His gaze settled on Ember, who continued mopping floors as if the arrival of high-ranking military personnel was routine rather than extraordinary. "Ma'am," Commander Kane said, his voice carrying formal respect that stunned everyone who'd spent the morning mocking Ember as civilian maintenance personnel. Commander Atlas Kane requesting permission to approach. The formality of his address sent shockwaves through the assembled group. Military commanders didn't request permission from civilian contractors. They issued orders, provided briefings, and maintained clear hierarchical distinctions that reflected official rank and authority structures. Ember looked up from her mopping, blue eyes meeting Commander Kane's with depths that suggested shared experiences and mutual recognition. "At ease, Commander. What's your report?" The casual authority in her voice, combined with Kane's immediate response of relaxed attention, created a dynamic that challenged every assumption about military hierarchy and civilian contractor relationships. "Security evaluation proceeding as planned, ma'am," Kane replied with crisp efficiency. "Some interesting behavioral observations that will require analysis and follow-up recommendations." Jackson Sterling felt reality tilting around him as he processed the interaction between Ember and Commander Kane. The deference in Kane's voice, the military protocol being observed, and the references to security evaluations that nobody had mentioned during their morning confrontation. "Security evaluation?" Brick Morrison's voice carried confusion and growing alarm. "What security evaluation?" Commander Kane's attention shifted to the three SEALs, with assessment that seemed to catalog their every response and reaction. "Gentlemen, you've been under observation for the past 30 days as part of a comprehensive security and personnel evaluation program." The implications of his statement sent waves of shock through everyone present except Ember, who continued her methodical cleaning as if discussions of month-long security evaluations were routine administrative matters. Dr. Sage Winters found her psychological evaluation protocols completely inadequate for documenting the situation developing around her. Security evaluations, drone command authority, and military personnel deferring to someone identified as civilian maintenance staff. Wade Fletcher's 15 years of special operations experience included enough exposure to classified programs to recognize when he was witnessing capabilities that operated beyond standard military authorization. "Ma'am, what exactly is your position here?" Ember paused in her mopping, considering his question with the systematic attention she'd applied to their technical challenges. "I'm whatever the mission requires me to be." But before she could elaborate, a new development demanded everyone's attention. The Armory's main communication display was activating, revealing systems that most personnel had never seen during routine operations. The wall-mounted screen that typically showed standard facility information was transforming into something far more sophisticated. Advanced interfaces appearing, classification headers that indicated special access program authorization, and data streams that suggested real-time intelligence feeds from multiple sources. Nix Rivera watched in amazement as the display revealed information that challenged her understanding of facility capabilities and security classification systems. "I didn't know we had that kind of equipment." "Most personnel don't," Commander Kane replied. "This facility serves multiple purposes beyond standard Armory operations." The display continued revealing capabilities that existed beyond anything suggested by official facility documentation. Communication networks, intelligence feeds, and operational planning systems that indicated involvement in programs requiring the highest possible security clearances. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. As the display reached full activation, text began appearing that would fundamentally alter everyone's understanding of their morning encounter with civilian maintenance personnel. Operation Reaper, Security Evaluation Phase 7, appeared at the top of the screen in bold military lettering. Below that, personnel assignments that made everyone present question everything they thought they knew about facility operations and staff identities. Evaluation Commander, Ember Thorne. Call sign, Reaper Queen. Authorization, Special Access Program Omega Red. The silence that followed was so complete that individual heartbeats seemed audible in the Armory's enclosed space. Jackson Sterling stared at the display, his mind struggling to process information that contradicted every assumption he'd made about civilian contractors and military hierarchy. "Reaper Queen?" Commander Kane maintained formal military bearing as he addressed the assembled personnel. "Gentlemen, allow me to formally introduce Evaluation Commander Ember Thorne, operating under the call sign, Reaper Queen, conducting classified security assessment of this facility and its personnel." The introduction sent shockwaves through everyone who'd spent the morning mocking and challenging someone whose actual authority exceeded their collective understanding. Brick Morrison felt the last foundations of his confidence crumbling as he contemplated the possibility that his morning's entertainment had involved systematically insulting and undermining someone with command authority that operated at classification levels beyond his security clearance. But even as the display revealed Ember's actual identity and role, questions remained about the specific capabilities and programs that had allowed her to demonstrate knowledge and skills that exceeded standard special operations training. Dr. Sage Winters found herself documenting observations that would require complete revision of psychological evaluation protocols and behavioral assessment methodologies. Everything she'd witnessed challenged fundamental assumptions about identity verification and personnel classification systems. Wade Fletcher's combat experience included enough exposure to special access programs to understand the implications of Omega Red authorization and Reaper designation. Capabilities that existed beyond standard military classification, operations that weren't officially acknowledged, and personnel whose actual roles contradicted their cover identities. Ember finally set down her mop and removed the civilian contractor identification badge that had provided cover for her month-long evaluation mission. What she revealed underneath made everyone present understand the true scope of their morning's misjudgment. Military identification with classification levels that exceeded anything they'd encountered during standard operations. special access authorizations that granted capabilities most personnel never learned existed, and a photograph that showed Ember in military dress uniform with ribbons and decorations indicating service in operations that officially never occurred. "Ma'am," Nix Rivera said, her voice carrying newfound respect and underlying embarrassment about her earlier assumptions. "How long have you been evaluating our facility?" 37 days, Ember replied with clinical precision. "Comprehensive assessment of security protocols, personnel behavior under various stress conditions, and institutional responses to unconventional challenges." The timeline made everyone present realize that their morning's confrontation had been the culmination of an extended evaluation period, during which their every action and response had been documented and analyzed. Commander Kane consulted a tablet, displaying information that appeared to represent comprehensive behavioral assessments and security evaluation data. The evaluation period has provided extensive documentation of individual and institutional responses to personnel who don't fit standard expectations. Jackson Sterling felt sick as he contemplated the possibility that his mockery and sabotage attempts had been recorded and analyzed as part of a formal military evaluation that could affect his career and security clearances. "What kind of evaluation?" he asked, though his voice suggested he already suspected the answer wouldn't be favorable. Ember approached a secure workstation that had been concealed within the Armory's standard equipment, revealing access panels and interfaces that indicated capabilities far beyond routine facility operations. "Behavioral assessment under stress," she replied, activating systems that displayed comprehensive data about their morning's interaction. "Response to authority figures who don't match expected profiles. Ability to recognize capability regardless of external appearance or official documentation." The workstation's display showed video footage from multiple angles, audio recordings of their conversations, and behavioral analysis data that quantified their responses to each challenge and revelation. Dr. Sage Winters watched in fascination and growing concern as her own psychological evaluation attempts were displayed alongside analysis that demonstrated capabilities far exceeding her clinical training and assessment methodologies. Brick Morrison stared at footage showing his aggressive confrontations and mockery attempts, realizing that his behavior had been documented in detail for evaluation by personnel with authority to affect his military career. "This whole thing was a setup," he said, his voice carrying combinations of anger and embarrassment that he couldn't entirely suppress. "Not a setup," Commander Kane corrected, "an evaluation. Your responses were authentic because you believed the situation was real. That authenticity provides valuable data about institutional behavior and individual character under stress." But even as the scope of their evaluation became clear, the most dramatic revelations were yet to come. Ember's month-long assessment had uncovered security vulnerabilities and behavioral patterns that had implications beyond individual career consequences. Nix Rivera found herself wondering how many other facilities were undergoing similar evaluations, and what systemic changes might result from the data being collected. "Ma'am, how many other locations are conducting similar assessments?" Ember's response carried implications that extended far beyond their local facility and personnel. "This is part of a comprehensive program evaluating special operations readiness and institutional bias across multiple installations and command structures." The scope suggested evaluation programs that operated at levels involving policy decisions affecting thousands of military personnel and national security protocols. Wade Fletcher's experience with classified programs provided enough context to understand that comprehensive institutional evaluations typically preceded major policy changes or organizational restructuring that could affect entire service branches. But before anyone could fully process the implications of systematic evaluation programs, Ember's attention was drawn to her smartwatch, which was displaying alerts that demanded immediate response. The device showed incoming communications that carried priority classifications requiring immediate attention regardless of current activities or circumstances. "Stand by," Ember said, activating communication protocols that connected her to networks operating beyond anything the assembled personnel had encountered during standard military operations. The conversation that followed would reveal the true scope of Ember's responsibilities, and the operational realities that existed beyond routine facility management and training exercises. Reaper Queen, we have developing situation requiring immediate consultation, a voice said through encrypted communication channels. Multiple intelligence indicators suggesting coordinated threat assessment targeting special access personnel. Ember's response demonstrated familiarity with threat evaluation protocols and decision-making authority that operated at levels requiring the highest possible security clearances. Classification level and timeline for response? She asked with systematic efficiency. Priority Alpha, immediate activation authorized for threat assessment and counterintelligence response. The communication continued with technical details that exceeded the security clearances of everyone present, except Ember and Commander Kane, who maintained professional attention while excluding lower-cleared personnel from sensitive information. Dr. Sage Winters found herself documenting interactions that challenged her understanding of how classified operations integrated with routine military activities and personnel management. But the most significant revelation came when Ember concluded her communication and turned to address the assembled personnel with information that would affect their understanding of both their evaluation and their future responsibilities. "Gentlemen," she said, her voice carrying authority that commanded immediate attention, "your evaluation period is complete. The results will influence policy decisions affecting personnel assessment and training protocols across multiple installations." Commander Kane consulted his tablet, preparing to provide individual assessment summaries that would have career implications for everyone who'd participated in the morning's confrontation. "Petty Officer Morrison," he began, his voice carrying formal precision that indicated official rather than casual feedback. "Your responses demonstrated aggressive behavior toward personnel who don't match expected profiles, inability to recognize capability regardless of appearance, and resistance to evidence that contradicted initial assumptions." Brick Morrison felt the bottom drop out of his career prospects as he realized his behavior had been thoroughly documented and would be part of his permanent military record. Recommendations include mandatory sensitivity training, supervised interactions with diverse personnel, and psychological evaluation to address underlying bias and aggression patterns. The formal recommendation carried implications that could affect promotion opportunities, security clearance renewals, and assignment to elite units that required demonstrated professionalism and adaptability. Jackson Sterling awaited his evaluation with growing dread, knowing that his sabotage attempts and technical challenges had been recorded in detail for analysis by personnel with authority to affect his military future. "Petty Officer Sterling," Commander Kane continued, "technical competence demonstrated, but paired with deliberate sabotage attempts against superior personnel and refusal to acknowledge evidence contradicting preconceived assumptions." The assessment continued with recommendations for additional training and supervision that would affect his career progression and assignment opportunities. Wade Fletcher received evaluation feedback that acknowledged his growing suspicion and professional caution, while noting his failure to recognize authority figures operating under cover identities. But individual assessments were only part of a larger evaluation program that had implications extending far beyond personal career consequences. Ember activated additional display systems that revealed the scope and implications of comprehensive institutional evaluation programs operating across multiple military installations. This assessment is part of a systematic program evaluating military readiness for operations involving personnel who don't match traditional expectations, she explained. "Future conflicts will require ability to recognize capability regardless of appearance, gender, age, or cultural background." The strategic implications suggested preparation for operational environments where traditional military bearing and obvious qualifications might be less important than adaptability and recognition of diverse capabilities. Nix Rivera found herself wondering about her own role in future operations and the possibilities that comprehensive evaluation programs might reveal about institutional strengths and weaknesses. "Ma'am, what happens next?" she asked. Ember's response carried implications that extended beyond immediate facility operations to strategic planning that involved national security policy and operational readiness. Policy recommendations will be developed based on evaluation data from multiple installations. Training protocols will be updated to address identified bias patterns and capability recognition failures. But even as she outlined future policy implications, Ember's smartwatch was displaying additional alerts that demanded immediate attention and would reveal the operational realities that existed beyond evaluation programs. The advanced military education and legal consultation required for classified special operations demands specialized expertise that civilian institutions simply cannot provide. Professional development programs designed specifically for elite military personnel include comprehensive legal training, advanced tactical instruction, and classified protocol management. These exclusive educational frameworks prepare operatives for complex legal and operational challenges they face during sensitive missions, where standard training would be completely insufficient. Priority communication requiring immediate response, Ember announced, activating systems that would conclude their evaluation session and transition to operational requirements that couldn't be delayed for administrative convenience. The communication that followed revealed operational realities that existed beyond training exercises and evaluation programs, involving threats and responsibilities that required immediate attention, regardless of current circumstances. Reaper Queen, we have confirmed intelligence indicating hostile surveillance of special access personnel across multiple installations. Immediate threat assessment and security protocol activation required. Ember's response demonstrated decision-making authority and operational readiness that exceeded anything suggested by her civilian maintenance cover identity. Authorization codes transmitted. Initiating security protocol Omega-7. Standby for personnel extraction and facility security enhancement. The conversation continued with technical coordination that involved resources and capabilities operating at classification levels beyond the assembled personnel's security clearances. Commander Kane prepared to conclude the evaluation session and transition to operational requirements that would demonstrate the practical applications of capabilities that had been tested during Ember's month-long assessment. "Gentlemen, your evaluation participation is complete," he announced. "Security protocols require immediate facility transition to operational status. Cleared personnel will be briefed on continuing responsibilities." But before the transition could be completed, Ember's attention was drawn to additional communication requiring immediate response and revealing the operational pressures that existed beyond routine evaluation and training activities. If this story gave you chills, you need to check out the next video in this series. It's about a veteran who shocked an entire military base when they discovered what she was hiding. Click that video in the description and prepare to have your mind blown again. The communication that interrupted their conclusion carried urgency that suggested developing situations requiring immediate operational response, regardless of current evaluation activities or administrative convenience. Reaper Queen, we have satellite intelligence confirming coordinated surveillance targeting multiple special access facilities. Immediate activation authorized for threat assessment and counter-surveillance operations. Ember's response demonstrated familiarity with threat evaluation protocols and command authority that operated at levels involving national security policy and strategic operational planning. Classification level and resource authorization, she asked with systematic efficiency that indicated routine familiarity with crisis response coordination. Alpha priority, unlimited resource authorization for threat neutralization and personnel protection. Multiple agencies coordinating response through special access channels. The communication revealed operational realities that existed beyond evaluation programs and training exercises, involving threats that required immediate response using capabilities that operated beyond standard military authorization. Dr. Sage Winters found herself documenting situations that challenged her understanding of how classified operations integrated with routine facility activities and personnel management responsibilities. But the most dramatic development came when Ember concluded her communication and prepared to demonstrate capabilities that would reveal the true scope of her authority and operational responsibilities. "Commander Kane," she said, her voice carrying command authority that indicated transition from evaluation to operational status. Implement Security Protocol Omega-7. Clear non-essential personnel and prepare for operational configuration. Kane's immediate response demonstrated recognition of authority and familiarity with protocols that operated beyond standard facility security procedures. Yes, ma'am. Security teams are standing by for facility lockdown and threat assessment operations. The coordination continued with technical details that revealed capabilities existing beyond anything suggested by routine facility documentation or standard military operations. Nix Rivera found herself wondering about the operational realities that existed parallel to routine military activities and the extent of classified programs that operated without general personnel awareness. But before she could fully process the implications of operational transition, the facility's communication systems were displaying additional information that would reveal the scope and urgency of developing threats. Multiple displays activated simultaneously, showing real-time intelligence feeds from satellite surveillance, electronic intelligence gathering, and human intelligence sources that indicated coordinated activities targeting special access personnel and facilities. Confirmed hostile surveillance at 7 installations, Commander Kane reported, consulting displays that showed tactical information requiring immediate operational response. Pattern analysis suggests coordinated intelligence gathering operation targeting Reaper program personnel. Ember's response demonstrated strategic thinking and decision-making authority that involved coordination of resources operating at national security levels. Initiate counter-surveillance protocol Charlie. Deploy advanced reconnaissance teams for threat assessment and evidence gathering. Coordinate with allied intelligence services for comprehensive threat analysis. The operational coordination continued with technical details that revealed capabilities and resources existing beyond standard military authorization, involving international cooperation and advanced intelligence capabilities. Jackson Sterling watched in amazement as routine facility operations transformed into what appeared to be national security crisis management, involving resources and capabilities he'd never encountered during standard military training. But the transformation was far from complete. Additional personnel were arriving at the facility, bringing equipment and expertise that would demonstrate the full scope of capabilities that existed beyond routine military operations. Advanced communication systems were being deployed, establishing connections with networks that operated beyond standard military authorization. Intelligence analysis workstations that could process real-time data from multiple sources simultaneously. Wade Fletcher's combat experience provided enough context to recognize when routine training environments were transitioning to operational status involving real threats and strategic implications. The facility's transformation continued with systematic precision that demonstrated prior planning and preparation for operational requirements that could be activated with minimal notice. Ember moved to command workstations that had been concealed within routine facility equipment, revealing interfaces and capabilities that indicated planning for operational requirements beyond standard training and evaluation activities. Threat assessment confirms coordinated surveillance operation targeting multiple special access programs, she announced, reviewing intelligence data that required immediate operational response. Authorization received for comprehensive counterintelligence operation involving multiple agencies and international coordination. The scope of operational response suggested threats and capabilities that operated at levels involving national security policy and strategic planning beyond anything the assembled personnel had encountered during routine military service. Commander Kane coordinated with arriving personnel, whose equipment and expertise indicated involvement in programs that existed at special access classification levels requiring the highest possible security clearances. Security teams deploying to 7 installations, he reported. Advanced surveillance equipment, detecting hostile intelligence gathering activities targeting personnel and operational capabilities. The operational coordination continued with technical details that revealed capabilities existing beyond standard military authorization, involving advanced technology and strategic resources that operated at national security levels. Dr. Sage Winters found herself documenting situations that challenged fundamental assumptions about facility operations, and the extent of classified programs that operated parallel to routine military activities. But even as operational capabilities were being deployed, Ember's attention was focused on strategic coordination that would address threats operating beyond immediate tactical concerns. Intelligence analysis confirms foreign intelligence services attempting to identify and neutralize Reaper program personnel, she announced, reviewing data that required immediate strategic response. Operational security protocols require comprehensive program restructuring and enhanced protection measures. The strategic implications suggested threats that could affect national security capabilities and operational readiness, involving personnel and programs that operated beyond public awareness or standard military acknowledgement. Nix Rivera found herself wondering about the extent of classified programs that operated parallel to routine military activities and the operational realities that existed beyond official documentation and public awareness. But before she could process the full implications of strategic threats and operational responses, additional developments would reveal the personal costs and professional implications of involvement in programs that operated beyond standard military authorization. Ember's communication systems were displaying priority alerts that indicated immediate personal implications for her operational status and future responsibilities. Reaper Queen. Intelligence analysis confirms your cover identity has been compromised through hostile surveillance operations. Immediate extraction and identity protection protocols required. The communication revealed operational realities that challenged assumptions about career continuity and personal security for personnel involved in classified programs operating under cover identities. Ember's response demonstrated acceptance of operational requirements that could affect every aspect of her personal and professional existence. Extraction timeline and resource requirements? She asked with systematic efficiency that indicated routine familiarity with identity protection protocols and operational transition procedures. Immediate departure required. New identity documentation and assignment coordination standing by for implementation within 48 hours. The operational coordination continued, with technical details that revealed the extent of resources dedicated to protecting personnel involved in classified programs, and the systematic planning required for identity transition and assignment changes. Commander Kane prepared to implement facility security protocols that would conclude evaluation activities and transition to operational requirements involving personnel protection and program security. Ma'am, facility lockdown procedures are ready for implementation. Personnel extraction vehicles standing by for immediate departure. But even as operational transition proceeded, Ember's attention was focused on ensuring that evaluation results and policy recommendations would be preserved and implemented despite operational disruption. Evaluation data transmission to appropriate agencies for policy development, she directed. Personnel assessment recommendations to be implemented, regardless of operational transition requirements. The coordination ensured that institutional learning and policy improvements would continue, despite operational pressures and personnel reassignment requirements. Jackson Sterling watched as routine facility operations concluded with systematic precision that demonstrated prior planning for operational transition and personnel extraction under various circumstances. But the most dramatic revelation came when Ember prepared to conclude her month-long evaluation mission and transition to operational requirements that would take her beyond routine facility operations. She moved to equipment storage that had remained concealed throughout her evaluation period, revealing personal gear and operational equipment that indicated readiness for immediate deployment to operational environments beyond standard military facilities. Advanced communication equipment, specialized tactical gear, and documentation that suggested assignment to operations involving international coordination and strategic capabilities beyond standard military authorization. Wade Fletcher recognized equipment configurations that indicated preparation for operations in hostile or uncertain environments, requiring advanced capabilities and strategic coordination. The gear suggested operational requirements involving international travel, advanced technology deployment, and strategic coordination that operated beyond standard military authorization and public awareness. Dr. Sage Winters found herself documenting transition procedures that revealed the extent of planning and resources dedicated to personnel involved in classified programs operating under cover identities. But even as Ember prepared for operational transition, she took time to address the personnel who'd participated in her evaluation mission and the implications their involvement would have for their future responsibilities. "Gentlemen," she said, her voice carrying authority that commanded immediate attention despite operational pressures and time constraints. "Your participation in this evaluation has provided valuable data about institutional readiness and individual capability recognition." Commander Kane consulted evaluation summaries that would influence policy decisions and training protocols affecting personnel across multiple installations and operational commands. Recommendations for institutional improvement will be implemented based on behavioral patterns and capability recognition failures documented during evaluation period, he announced. The implications suggested systematic changes that could affect training protocols, personnel assessment procedures, and operational readiness evaluation across multiple military installations and special operations commands. Nix Rivera found herself wondering about future opportunities and the possibilities that comprehensive evaluation programs might reveal about institutional capabilities and improvement requirements. But individual career implications were secondary to strategic policy development and institutional improvement that would enhance operational readiness and capability recognition across military services. Ember's final preparations for operational transition included coordination with personnel who would continue evaluation programs at other installations and the strategic planning required for comprehensive program implementation. Evaluation methodology will be refined based on data collected during this assessment, she explained. Additional installations will conduct similar evaluations using improved protocols and enhanced behavioral analysis capabilities. The strategic scope suggested comprehensive programs that would evaluate institutional readiness and capability recognition across multiple installations, potentially affecting thousands of military personnel and operational capabilities. But even as strategic planning continued, operational pressures required immediate attention and transition to responsibilities that operated beyond evaluation and training activities. Ember's communication systems were displaying final coordination requirements that would conclude her evaluation mission and begin operational deployment to address threats that required immediate response. "Extraction vehicles approaching facility perimeter," Commander Kane reported. "Security teams confirming clear departure routes and threat assessment negative for immediate area." The operational coordination demonstrated systematic planning and resource allocation that ensured personnel protection during transition from cover identities to operational deployment. But before departure, Ember took time to address specific personnel whose behavior during evaluation had demonstrated potential for advanced training and enhanced responsibilities. "Sergeant Rivera," she said, approaching Nix with evaluation results that indicated positive assessment and potential for advancement beyond current assignment limitations. "Your behavioral observations and professional responses during evaluation period demonstrate capability recognition and adaptability that suggest potential for advanced training opportunities." The assessment carried implications that could affect Nix's career progression and assignment to specialized programs requiring enhanced capabilities and security clearances. "Ma'am, what kind of advanced training opportunities?" Nix asked, her voice carrying combinations of professional interest and personal uncertainty about future possibilities. Ember's response revealed opportunities that existed beyond standard career progression and assignment protocols, involving programs that required special qualifications and security clearances. Reconnaissance training, advanced surveillance capabilities, and operational assignments involving international coordination and strategic intelligence gathering. The opportunities suggested career paths that operated beyond standard military advancement, involving specialized training and operational assignments that required exceptional capabilities and professional judgment. But individual career opportunities were secondary to strategic operational requirements that demanded immediate attention and resource allocation. Ember's final coordination included strategic planning that would ensure program continuity despite personnel transition and operational deployment to address immediate threats. Program evaluation will continue at designated installations with enhanced protocols and improved assessment methodologies, she explained. Institutional improvement recommendations will be implemented based on comprehensive data analysis and behavioral pattern recognition. The strategic scope ensured that evaluation insights would influence policy development and training improvement across multiple installations, potentially affecting operational readiness and capability recognition for thousands of military personnel. Commander Kane prepared to conclude facility operations and implement security protocols that would protect classified program information, while ensuring continued institutional improvement based on evaluation results. "Ma'am, departure timeline confirms immediate extraction required," he announced. "Operational coordination standing by for program continuation and strategic implementation." But even as operational transition proceeded, final developments would reveal the personal costs and professional implications of involvement in programs that operated beyond standard military authorization and public awareness. Ember's personal equipment included items that suggested assignment to operations involving significant personal risk and strategic importance beyond routine military deployment. Advanced communication devices capable of operating in hostile environments, specialized documentation for international travel under various identities, and tactical equipment designed for operations requiring exceptional capabilities and strategic coordination. Wade Fletcher recognized equipment configurations that indicated assignment to operations involving international intelligence gathering, strategic coordination with allied services, and capabilities that operated beyond standard military authorization. The implications suggested operational environments involving significant personal risk and strategic responsibilities that could affect national security capabilities and international cooperation agreements. Dr. Sage Winters found herself documenting transition procedures that revealed the extent of personal sacrifice and professional dedication required for personnel involved in classified programs operating beyond public awareness. But the most significant revelation came when Ember's final communication revealed the operational realities that existed beyond evaluation programs and training exercises. "Operational deployment confirmed for Eastern European theater," she announced, reviewing assignment details that required immediate response and strategic coordination. "Intelligence gathering and threat assessment, operation involving multiple agencies and international coordination." The operational assignment suggested responsibilities that involved significant personal risk and strategic importance beyond anything encountered during routine military service. Commander Kane coordinated final security protocols that would protect program information, while ensuring Ember's safe transition to operational deployment. Security teams confirming extraction route clear. Operational coordination, standing by for immediate departure and assignment transition. But even as departure procedures concluded, final coordination would reveal the strategic importance and operational scope of assignments that operated beyond public awareness and standard military acknowledgement. Ember approached the facility's main communication display, activating systems that would provide final coordination and strategic planning for operations involving international cooperation and advanced capabilities. The display revealed operational planning that involved multiple agencies, international intelligence services, and strategic coordination that operated at national security levels beyond standard military authorization. "Operation Ghost Protocol confirmed for activation," she announced, reviewing assignment details that required immediate deployment and strategic coordination. Multiple Reaper operatives requiring extraction and identity protection following compromise of cover operations. The operational scope revealed the extent of programs that operated beyond public awareness, involving personnel whose capabilities and assignments existed at classification levels requiring the highest possible security clearances. Commander Kane reviewed final coordination requirements that would ensure program security, while enabling operational effectiveness for personnel deployed to hostile environments. "Ma'am, extraction coordination complete. Operational assignment briefing materials standing by for review during transport to deployment location." But the most dramatic conclusion came when Ember's final preparation revealed the personal commitment and professional dedication required for operational assignments that could affect national security capabilities and international strategic balance. She removed the civilian maintenance uniform that had provided cover for her evaluation mission, revealing military dress uniform with ribbons and decorations that indicated service in operations that officially never occurred. Advanced qualification badges, campaign ribbons for theaters that weren't publicly acknowledged, and decorations that suggested involvement in strategic operations affecting national security and international stability. Wade Fletcher recognized insignia configurations that indicated involvement in special access programs and operational assignments that existed beyond standard military acknowledgement or public awareness. The decorations suggested service in operations involving significant personal risk and strategic importance that could affect national security capabilities and international cooperation agreements. Dr. Sage Winters found herself documenting the conclusion of an evaluation mission that had revealed institutional capabilities and improvement requirements, while demonstrating the personal dedication and professional excellence of personnel involved in classified programs. But final coordination would reveal the strategic implications and operational realities that existed beyond evaluation programs and routine military activities. Ember's departure preparation included final briefing materials that revealed the scope and urgency of operational assignments requiring immediate deployment and strategic coordination. Eastern European operation involves extraction of compromised operatives and counterintelligence response to hostile surveillance targeting special access programs, she explained. Timeline requires immediate deployment and operational coordination with multiple international agencies. The assignment scope suggested operational environments involving significant challenges and strategic importance that could affect international stability and national security capabilities. Commander Kane coordinated final security protocols that would protect program information while ensuring successful operational deployment and mission accomplishment. Ma'am, transport vehicles approaching final checkpoint. Operational coordination confirmed for immediate departure and assignment transition. But even as departure procedures concluded, final developments would reveal the continuing operational realities and strategic implications that existed beyond evaluation programs and facility operations. The facility's communication systems displayed final coordination that confirmed the strategic importance and operational urgency of assignments that required immediate response, regardless of personal convenience or routine administrative requirements. Ghost protocol activation confirmed, Ember announced, reviewing final assignment details that required immediate deployment and strategic coordination. Multiple operatives requiring immediate extraction and identity protection. The operational scope revealed programs that operated beyond public awareness, involving personnel whose capabilities and assignments existed at classification levels requiring exceptional dedication and professional excellence. As final departure procedures concluded, Ember turned to address personnel who'd participated in her evaluation mission and the institutional implications their involvement would have for future policy development and operational readiness. Gentlemen, your participation has provided valuable insights about institutional readiness and capability recognition that will influence policy development affecting thousands of military personnel. The evaluation results would ensure institutional improvement and enhanced operational readiness based on comprehensive behavioral analysis and capability assessment. Commander Kane prepared to implement post-evaluation security protocols that would protect program information while ensuring continued institutional development based on evaluation insights. Facility transition to standard operations will proceed with enhanced protocols and improved assessment capabilities based on evaluation recommendations. But the most significant conclusion came when Ember's final words revealed the strategic importance and personal commitment required for operational assignments that operated beyond routine military service. Real operators don't need to advertise their capabilities, she said, her voice carrying wisdom earned through operational experience and strategic responsibility. Excellence speaks through action, not appearance. The message carried implications for institutional development and personal professional growth that extended beyond immediate evaluation results to strategic thinking about capability recognition and operational readiness. As extraction vehicles approached the facility perimeter, final coordination revealed the continuing operational realities that existed beyond evaluation programs and routine training activities. Ember's encrypted satellite phone activated with priority communication that demanded immediate response, regardless of current circumstances or administrative convenience. Reaper Queen, we have confirmed intelligence regarding Eastern European situation. Multiple operatives compromised through coordinated hostile surveillance. Immediate extraction and counterintelligence operation authorized. Her response demonstrated command authority and operational readiness that exceeded anything suggested by evaluation activities or routine facility operations. Operational timeline and resource coordination, she asked with systematic efficiency that indicated routine familiarity with crisis response and strategic coordination requirements. Immediate deployment authorized. Unlimited resource allocation for operative extraction and counterintelligence response. Multiple international agencies coordinating response through special access channels. The operational coordination revealed capabilities and strategic planning that operated beyond standard military authorization, involving international cooperation and advanced capabilities that existed at national security levels. Commander Kane coordinated final facility security that would protect evaluation results while ensuring operational transition and program continuation based on assessment insights. Ma'am, extraction coordination complete. Operational briefing materials, standing by for review during transport to deployment theater. But the most dramatic conclusion came when Ember's final preparation revealed the extent of operational commitment and strategic responsibility that characterized assignments beyond evaluation and training activities. Looking at the devil-face tattoo that had remained concealed throughout her month-long evaluation mission, she smiled with anticipation that suggested familiarity with operational challenges and strategic importance. "Some devils never rest," she said, her voice carrying confidence earned through operational experience and strategic accomplishment. "Send coordinates." The final words revealed operational realities that existed beyond evaluation programs and routine military activities, involving assignments that required exceptional capabilities and strategic thinking that could affect national security and international stability. As extraction vehicles reached the facility and operational transition concluded, the strategic implications and institutional improvements resulting from comprehensive evaluation would continue affecting policy development and operational readiness across multiple installations and thousands of military personnel. The evaluation mission had concluded, but the operational realities and strategic responsibilities that characterized classified programs would continue affecting national security capabilities and international cooperation that operated beyond public awareness and standard military acknowledgement. Ember Thorne's transition from evaluation commander to operational deployment demonstrated the personal dedication and professional excellence required for assignments that could affect strategic balance and international stability through capabilities that existed beyond routine military service and public recognition. The facility returned to standard operations with enhanced protocols and improved assessment capabilities, while operational requirements continued demanding immediate attention and strategic coordination that operated beyond evaluation programs and routine training activities. The morning's confrontation had concluded with revelations that challenged every assumption about capability recognition and institutional readiness, while demonstrating operational realities that existed beyond standard military authorization and public awareness. As extraction vehicles departed the facility, carrying personnel whose assignments would affect strategic capabilities and international cooperation, the institutional improvements and policy development resulting from comprehensive evaluation would continue influencing military readiness and operational effectiveness across multiple installations and service branches. The story had concluded, but the operational realities and strategic implications would continue affecting national security capabilities and international stability through programs that operated beyond public awareness and standard military acknowledgement. The dust from the extraction vehicles had barely settled when the full weight of what had transpired began to sink into the consciousness of everyone who remained in the armory. The facility felt different now, not just because Ember Thorne had departed, but because the very foundations of what they thought they understood about military hierarchy and operational security had been permanently altered. Commander Kane stood at the center of the armory, reviewing digital reports that would reshape careers and influence policy decisions affecting thousands of military personnel across multiple installations. The comprehensive evaluation data collected during Ember's month-long assessment revealed behavioral patterns and institutional blind spots that demanded immediate attention and systematic correction. "Gentlemen," Kane said, his voice carrying the weight of formal military authority that would determine their professional futures. "The evaluation period has concluded, but the consequences of your documented behavior will have lasting implications for your military careers and security clearances." Brick Morrison felt the walls of his world closing in as he contemplated the permanent record of his aggressive confrontations and systematic disrespect towards someone whose actual authority exceeded his understanding. The video footage, audio recordings, and behavioral analysis data would follow him throughout his remaining military service, affecting promotion opportunities and assignment eligibility for specialized operations. "Sir," Brick said, his voice carrying combinations of desperation and dawning recognition of career consequences he couldn't avoid. "We didn't know who she really was. The documentation showed civilian contractor status. How are we supposed to recognize someone operating undercover identity?" Commander Kane consulted his tablet, reviewing evaluation criteria that had been established specifically to test personnel responses to authority figures who didn't match traditional expectations or conventional military appearance. That inability to recognize capability, regardless of external appearance, is precisely what this evaluation was designed to assess, Kane replied with clinical precision. "Future operational environments will require ability to work with personnel whose capabilities exceed their apparent qualifications or official documentation." The strategic implications extended beyond individual career consequences to fundamental questions about military readiness and institutional bias that could affect operational effectiveness in environments where traditional military bearing and obvious credentials might be less important than adaptability and capability recognition. Jackson Sterling found himself reviewing every interaction he'd had with Ember, realizing that his technical sabotage attempts and condescending challenges had been documented in detail for analysis by personnel whose recommendations could affect his access to advanced training and specialized assignments. "Sir, what specific consequences are we looking at?" Jackson asked, though his voice suggested he already suspected the answer wouldn't be favorable to his career aspirations. Kane's response carried implications that would affect not just immediate assignments, but long-term career progression and security clearance maintenance for personnel whose behavior had demonstrated institutional bias and capability recognition failures. Mandatory sensitivity training, supervised interactions with diverse personnel, psychological evaluation to address underlying bias patterns, and notation in permanent records regarding professional judgment and adaptability under unexpected circumstances. The formal recommendations would create documentation that could influence every subsequent assignment, promotion board evaluation, and security clearance review throughout their remaining military careers. Wade Fletcher, whose growing suspicion and professional caution had been noted alongside his failure to recognize authority operating undercover, found himself wondering about the broader implications of evaluation programs that tested institutional readiness for operational environments beyond traditional military structures. "Sir, how many other installations are conducting similar evaluations?" Wade asked, his voice carrying combinations of professional curiosity and personal concern about systematic assessment programs that operated beyond routine training and evaluation activities. Commander Kane's response revealed the scope and strategic importance of comprehensive evaluation programs that would influence policy development and operational readiness across multiple service branches and international partners. This assessment is part of a multi-installation program involving dozens of facilities and thousands of personnel, Kane explained. The data collected will influence training protocols, personnel assessment procedures, and operational readiness standards affecting special operations capabilities across all service branches. The strategic scope suggested evaluation programs that operated at levels involving national security policy and international cooperation agreements that could affect military effectiveness and alliance relationships in future operational environments. Dr. Sage Winters continued documenting psychological observations that had revealed institutional blind spots and behavioral patterns requiring systematic correction through enhanced training and improved assessment methodologies. The behavioral data collected during this evaluation provides unprecedented insights into institutional bias and capability recognition failures that affect operational readiness, she explained to Kane. Recommendations for psychological training and bias recognition programs will be essential for improving personnel performance in diverse operational environments. Her clinical analysis would contribute to policy development affecting thousands of military personnel and training program modification that could influence operational effectiveness for years to come. Nix Rivera found herself processing the implications of her positive evaluation and the advanced training opportunities that Ember had mentioned before her departure. The reconnaissance training, surveillance capabilities, and international operational assignments suggested career paths that operated beyond standard military advancement protocols. "Ma'am," Nix said, addressing Dr. Winters with professional respect and personal uncertainty about future possibilities. "What kind of timeline are we looking at for advanced training opportunities?" Dr. Winters consulted evaluation summaries that indicated personnel whose behavior had demonstrated potential for enhanced responsibilities and specialized training beyond current assignment limitations. Personnel who demonstrated positive behavioral patterns during evaluation will be considered for advanced training programs within 60 days, she replied. Selection criteria include adaptability, capability recognition, professional judgment under unexpected circumstances, and potential for operational effectiveness in diverse environments. The opportunities suggested career advancement that could lead to assignments involving international cooperation, strategic intelligence gathering, and operational responsibilities beyond standard military service parameters. But individual career implications were secondary to institutional changes that would result from comprehensive behavioral analysis and capability assessment data collected during evaluation programs across multiple installations. Commander Kane activated communication systems that would coordinate with evaluation teams at other facilities, sharing assessment methodologies and behavioral analysis techniques that had proven effective for identifying institutional strengths and improvement requirements. Evaluation protocols will be refined based on data collected during this assessment, he announced. Enhanced behavioral analysis capabilities and improved assessment methodologies will be implemented at additional installations to ensure comprehensive institutional readiness evaluation. The strategic coordination ensured that evaluation insights would influence policy development and training improvement across multiple installations, potentially affecting operational readiness and capability recognition for thousands of military personnel. Meanwhile, secure communication networks were processing reports from evaluation teams at other installations, revealing patterns of institutional bias and capability recognition failures that required systematic correction through enhanced training and improved personnel assessment procedures. The comprehensive data analysis revealed behavioral patterns that affected operational readiness and suggested policy modifications that could improve military effectiveness in operational environments, requiring adaptability and diverse capability recognition. Dr. Winters prepared psychological evaluation summaries that would influence training protocol development and personnel assessment improvement affecting multiple service branches and international partner organizations. Institutional bias patterns documented during evaluation demonstrate need for comprehensive training program modification, she explained. Enhanced sensitivity training, capability recognition exercises, and psychological assessment protocols will be essential for improving operational readiness. Her recommendations would contribute to policy development affecting training procedures, personnel evaluation standards, and operational effectiveness improvement across military installations and special operations commands. But the most significant developments were occurring beyond immediate facility operations, as secure networks processed intelligence reports that revealed the strategic importance and operational urgency of assignments that had required Ember's immediate deployment. Advanced intelligence gathering systems were displaying real-time information about hostile surveillance operations targeting special access programs and personnel operating under cover identities across multiple installations and international locations. Intelligence confirms coordinated hostile operations targeting Reaper program personnel, Kane announced, reviewing classified reports that required immediate attention and strategic response coordination. Multiple operatives requiring extraction and identity protection, following compromise of cover operations. The intelligence reports revealed operational realities that existed beyond evaluation programs and routine training activities, involving threats that required advanced capabilities and strategic coordination, operating at national security levels. Secure communication channels were coordinating response operations, involving multiple agencies, international intelligence services, and advanced capabilities that operated beyond standard military authorization. The strategic coordination demonstrated the extent of resources and planning dedicated to protecting personnel involved in classified programs and maintaining operational effectiveness despite hostile intelligence gathering and surveillance operations. Meanwhile, personnel assessment data from multiple installations was being analyzed to identify behavioral patterns and institutional strengths that could be leveraged for enhanced operational effectiveness and improved capability recognition in diverse operational environments. The comprehensive analysis revealed training requirements and policy modifications that would improve military readiness for operations involving personnel whose capabilities exceeded traditional expectations or conventional military appearance. Dr. Winters continued developing psychological training protocols that would address institutional bias and improve capability recognition among personnel whose operational effectiveness could be enhanced through improved assessment and training methodologies. Enhanced training programs will focus on bias recognition, capability assessment regardless of external appearance, and professional adaptability in unexpected circumstances, she explained. Implementation timeline suggests comprehensive training modification within 6 months. The training development would affect thousands of military personnel and contribute to operational readiness improvement that could influence military effectiveness and international cooperation capabilities. But operational pressures beyond evaluation and training activities continued demanding immediate attention, as intelligence reports revealed the scope and urgency of threats targeting classified programs and special access personnel. Secure intelligence networks were processing reports from multiple sources that confirmed hostile surveillance operations targeting Reaper program capabilities and personnel operating under various cover identities. Intelligence analysis confirms foreign intelligence services conducting systematic operations to identify and neutralize special access program personnel, Kane announced, reviewing classified reports that required immediate strategic response. Operational security protocols indicate comprehensive program restructuring may be required. The intelligence analysis revealed threats that could affect national security capabilities and operational readiness, involving personnel and programs that operated beyond public awareness or standard military acknowledgement. Strategic coordination was proceeding through classified communication channels involving multiple agencies and international partners whose cooperation was essential for maintaining operational effectiveness despite hostile intelligence gathering operations. The response coordination demonstrated advanced capabilities and strategic planning that operated at national security levels beyond standard military authorization, involving resources and expertise that existed at special access classification levels. Meanwhile, facility operations were transitioning to enhanced security protocols that would protect evaluation results and classified program information, while ensuring continued institutional improvement based on assessment insights. Advanced security systems were being deployed to protect classified information and personnel whose continued safety required operational security measures beyond standard facility protection protocols. The security enhancement demonstrated the strategic importance of evaluation programs and the operational value of assessment data that could influence policy development and training improvement, affecting thousands of military personnel. Personnel who had participated in evaluation activities were being briefed on security protocols and confidentiality requirements that would protect classified program information while ensuring their continued professional development based on assessment results. The briefing procedures demonstrated systematic planning for protecting program information while maximizing institutional benefit from evaluation insights and behavioral analysis data. Dr. Winters prepared final evaluation summaries that would contribute to policy development and training improvement, while protecting sensitive information about operational capabilities and strategic planning that operated beyond public awareness. Her documentation would ensure that institutional learning and improvement continued despite operational pressures and security requirements that limited information sharing beyond authorized personnel. But the most significant long-term implications involved strategic planning for enhanced operational readiness and improved capability recognition that would affect military effectiveness in future operational environments. Comprehensive evaluation data was being analyzed to identify training requirements and policy modifications that would improve institutional adaptability and personnel effectiveness in diverse operational circumstances. The analysis would contribute to strategic planning, affecting military readiness, international cooperation capabilities, and operational effectiveness improvement that could influence national security capabilities for years to come. Meanwhile, secure communication networks continued processing intelligence reports about Ember's operational deployment and the strategic importance of assignments that required immediate attention, despite personal risk and operational challenges. Operational coordination confirms successful deployment to Eastern European Theater, Kane announced, reviewing classified reports about strategic assignments that operated beyond standard military authorization. Mission parameters involve multiple agencies and international cooperation for extraction and counterintelligence operations. The operational reports revealed assignments that involved significant strategic importance and personal risk that could affect international stability and national security capabilities through advanced coordination and specialized expertise. Strategic planning continued through classified channels, involving resources and capabilities that operated at national security levels, demonstrating the extent of coordination required for maintaining operational effectiveness in hostile environments. The coordination revealed operational realities that existed beyond evaluation programs and routine military activities, involving assignments that required exceptional capabilities and strategic thinking that could affect international cooperation and strategic balance. As facility operations concluded enhanced security implementation and personnel briefing procedures, the long-term implications of comprehensive evaluation would continue affecting policy development and operational readiness across multiple installations and service branches. The evaluation mission had demonstrated institutional capabilities and improvement requirements, while revealing operational realities that operated beyond standard military authorization and public awareness. Personnel whose behavior had been documented during evaluation would experience career consequences and improvement opportunities based on comprehensive behavioral analysis and professional assessment that could influence their military effectiveness for years to come. But the strategic implications extended beyond individual career development to institutional improvement and policy modification that would enhance military readiness and operational effectiveness in diverse and challenging operational environments. The morning's confrontation had concluded with revelations that would continue affecting military readiness, operational effectiveness, and strategic capabilities through systematic institutional improvement and enhanced training protocols based on comprehensive evaluation and behavioral analysis.